back, everybody, to another segment of 120 Seconds. As always, I'm Stockwell. I am here with Mr. Sadistic of Motown Rage, and we're going to get into a non-linear conversation about his career. But before we get started, in case you're unfamiliar, because I think, at least specifically on this tour, people don't realize that Mr. Sadistic is the guy from Mottown Rage. I think that's happening. So we're going to do the classic, introduce yourself to someone who's never heard of you in roughly 120 seconds.
All right, you ready?
Fire away.
All right. Well, I guess I'll explain myself as a, we'll say, struggling musician. I am a musician that is constantly working to put out material and do better stuff and try to be dope and get seen by as many people as possible. Yeah, and I think I'm probably deep down inside homicidal, but I bury it so the world doesn't suffer.
Very good.
There you go.
Very good. Very good. All right, like I said, we're going to go non-linear because I'm going to start with Mottown Rage.
Sure.
You know, I think that's, to be fair, the most,
Probably.
especially in this world.
Yeah,
right?
that's what people are going to know.
Right. So let's talk about early days, pre-psychopathic.
Okay.
What was kind of the formation? I think I understand it, but I don't want to. I don't want to be wrong. So,
Yeah.
So go ahead.
So more or less, I was a solo artist, and I knew Razor Ray, Steve Berger for years.
Shout out to Razor Ray.
And they were in
He's the man.
They were in the band Harm's Way, not the band that you know now, not that band, but they were the band Harm's Way, and we used to do stuff together. We used to run into each other all the time, and Ray and I actually were living in the same apartments.
Okay.
And I would run into him all the time, and he'd go, "Hey, you need to do a song with us." I go, "Yeah, okay." And, "Hey, you should do a song with us." And he gave me a cassette tape, dating ourselves.
Right.
He gave me a cassette tape, and it had an instrumental on it, and I went and I wrote to it. And I was like, "So when we go in the studio?" He's like, "Well, I don't know, but you have the song, so you should do the show with us." And I did a show, and I did another show like a week later in Cleveland. And then it was just like, I kind of just became a part of what was the last kind of incantation of Harm's Way. Not really an official member, but was around. And then a guy named Bernard Alexander had approached Ray and Steve about doing another project. One that he didn't want to do so much, like with the weed stuff and everything. And
Which was the very Harm's Way.
yeah, very, and like that. But at the time, he was just like, let's kind of steer away from that. There's a lot of other things we could talk about. And so, Ray, Steve, Bernie, and myself kind of formed what is now known as Mottown Rage.
Okay.
Terrible name, by the way, but I can't change it. I was outvoted 3-1 when the band name came to be.
Because your choice was what?
I had a few.
Okay.
Some of them so good I won't tell because someday I'll start a band and that's going to be the name of it. But yeah, there was a few that I liked better. And then actually, and I'm going to fast forward a little bit, when we signed to Psychopathic /
That's what I'm
Hatchet
going
House,
next anyway, so go ahead.
they suggested that we change our name.
Okay.
And I was like, fuck yeah, let's change that bitch tomorrow. But then what happened was we did a song for the Psychopathics from Outer Space.
Yep.
And when we did that song, we were getting ready to go on tour with them, and they put the song on that as Mottown Rage. So as it comes out under that moniker, we go on the road with them. So it was like, well, fuck, this is the most that this is the biggest audience we're ever going to be exposed to. We can't come back and then change our name.
Right.
So that's how it became official.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that was, again, you kind of went there.
Okay.
And then we can fast forward to the now, and I know you and I already discussed it a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we all know you're nowhere near as active as you were at one point.
Sure.
But you're still semi-active and together and playing gigs occasionally as Mottown Rage?
Mottown Rage, the thing about it is that, as time goes on and people get more responsibilities and all that stuff, sometimes it just makes it harder to go, we're going to do 10 dates here, 20 dates here.
Right.
We still, actively rehearse on a regular basis. There's still plans to try to drop some new music at some point. We are booked to do a couple of shows later this year that I can't talk about just yet. But we're definitely still doing it. Like I said, it's just one of those things. So that was kind of what spearheaded my second my second run as a solo artist, because like I said, when I got with these guys, I was a solo artist. But one of those things of me just trying to stay active, me having ideas that weren't necessarily didn't necessarily fit the band.
Right.
So it was like, well, you know, let me go over here and see what I can do. And initially it was supposed to be one song that I was going to do and drop it and see what happened. And now, you know, now I'm doing shows and, you know, just trying to stay active.
All right. So I did. You can write that. I have Harm's Way, Razor Ray Connection. So we already did this. Got one on that. So we're gonna take it back even further.
Okay.
To the and again a couple weeks ago when we met talking about some shit. I talked about this specifically. The live video of you at St. Andrews. I believe you're opening for House of Crazies, maybe.
So there's two.
Okay.
You saw two. If I had the braids.
That's where I was going. The one with the long braid.
So
yeah.
that was actually with the first group that I ever did music. The first rap group I ever did music with, called YGG. I'm sure if you look hard enough, you'll find the stuff. I was their producer. It was really when I first started kind of dabbling into doing rap, because I'll be honest with you, rap was a thing I started to do later. I'm actually a guitar player by trade. I'm a far better guitar player than I am a rapper. But you know, we did a show with ICP. It was I believe it was like a prom theme.
Oh, the Prom Night Massacre
yes,
show.
we
There
did
you go.
that show.
Rest in history for you, Juggalos.
Did that, and then there's another video from St. Andrews where my old group Mob Mentality opened up. It was Mob Mentality, Crazy Clan, which I believe was Lavelle.
JMO and Lavelle,
Yep.
ABK and Lavelle. Yep.
There was Sleepwalkers,
Which was Blaze and Scraps.
Yep. Eminem.
Which
I think
people know him still.
Yeah,
Okay.
Marshall Mathers, and then House of Crazies. That was, and then I believe Rising Suns was the other group. It was,
and I don't know them for.
It was all local groups, and we put 800 people in St. Andrews Hall on Sunday night.
Awesome.
So,
all right, so again, fast forwarding solo as Mr. Sadistic now, and this is actually very hard for me to research. How many official releases, like full length albums, do you have?
None.
That's what I thought.
And
Okay.
I'll explain that.
Yeah.
Now, some of my target wasn't necessarily correct, so I'm looking in 2025 to kind of, I wouldn't say rewrite the ship, but my initial plan was I'm going to drop a song and a video will accompany. Right.
Okay.
So everything that I performed tonight, with the exception of one song, has a video.
Right.
On it. That was kind of my thing of like, I'm going to drop a song. If people want to hear it, they have to watch the video and look at my face,
Right.
so that they recognize me.
Okay.
I don't know that was necessarily, I know hindsight's 2020. I don't know if that was the best idea, but I'm actually gonna go a little probably anti-release as far as like an album.
Okay.
I think I'm just gonna do singles that way, because I think that sometimes I do music that doesn't necessarily line up with the other music that I do, and if you put it in a package and said, all right, it's kind of like putting sardines on chocolate cake. You know what I mean? Like, sardines are probably good to some people, chocolate cake's good to some people, but if you mash them together, it probably tastes like absolute
Nobody
shit.
likes that shit, right?
Right.
Yeah, I got you.
You know what I mean? So, and like I said, initially with the, now I'll clarify this for the first time ever, because a lot of people don't know this. The name really is just Sadistic.
Oh.
Right.
Okay.
However, and if anyone out there has used the name Sadistic and they have started using it prior to 1990 something, they ain't the first. That's me. Right? I got no beef with anybody using the name, but unfortunately, there's a bunch of you motherfuckers out there. So to kind of clarify, and this will kind of bring me attaching myself to my band, the MR actually stands for Mottown Rage.
Okay.
So it's kind of a double thing. You know what I mean?
So were you MC Sadistic though? Was it
Just Sadistic.
okay? See, so again, I just discussed this recently. But
So I had some other names. So like if you go back and you look up the Mob Mentality group, initially it wasn't a group, it was a compilation.
Okay.
So we had a bunch of, super dope MCs that came together and put out a compilation because nobody had an album that was ready.
Okay.
So in doing so, one of the tracks on the album was actually Ghost by House of Crazy.
Yep.
So
It's the last House Crazy track that was ever recorded with all three of them prior to
The
this
breakup.
year, whatever,
Yeah.
2024.
Yep. So that song is on that album, and I have a solo track. I went by Mindbender at the time,
Mindbender.
and I kind of went. So it was Mindbender, Schizo Sadistic.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
So that was, kind of the thing.
Right. All right. Again, my non-linear, because this is where my brain was at when I was writing these down, which it doesn't look planned, but I swear it is. Because again, I'm piggybacking a lot of our conversations over the last couple of years because we've run into each other.
Yeah.
So, you were at the very first ICP show
Ever.
So were they Insane Clown Posse at that point?
They were Inner City Posse.
Inner City Posse, but they were wearing clown paint, though, correct?
So if my memory serves me right, I can break. First of all, anybody who's watching this who knows me will attest to this. It's a fucking steel trap right here, right? So I remember a lot of shit.
People always tell me, like, oh, you do a lot of research. No, I don't. I've just been around so fucking long. I remember. And that's why I'm wrong a lot of the time. Like, I'll be like, oh, that's right. So, yeah.
So a lot of times when friends have fuzzy memories about stuff, they'll always call me and go, did this happen? What was kind of the chronological order? So at the time, one of the things that I did early on as a musician was write for magazines, and part of the reason was because I was broke, right? So when you write for magazines, if you send out stuff and say, hey, I write for Underground Sounds, I write for Metro Entertainment Scene, I write for Epitaph Magazine, can you send me free stuff? And they'll send you free shit. They'll send you stuff before it comes out.
Right.
They will, if you pester them enough, they will give you concert tickets and all that stuff. And for me, I had no money, so it was kind of when I get to discover music before it came out. And stuff like that. But so we had, I was working for a magazine, Underground Sounds, and we did our first interview was with Isham. And we had met Isham at an in-store, and he was playing at the Ritz, and it was Isham, Nadis, a guy named K-Hop, who was a DJ, and ICP.
Okay.
Now, back in the flyer days, I remember going to Puffer Reds at Ipsy, and my boy Eric was like, check this group out, like this flyer. The flyer was not the greatest flyer, but they looked kind of like the Warriors.
Yeah,
from the,
absolutely.
From
the baseball Furies.
Right.
Yep.
And so, and my boy Eric right away was like, I wonder what they sound like. They're probably dope as fuck, blah, 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 blah. So we go to the show, the Isham show, and I see these guys and they're dressed up like clowns. And like I said, my memory serves me right. It's one of the few things I'm fuzzy on was that they had like the full clown hookup.
Oh, actual clown stuff, not like the baseball jerseys.
Like doing clown rolls
okay.
and all that stuff. And I remember the one thing that I remember was because they played first was that they had so much bass in their music.
Yeah, just
it was crazy.
Yeah.
And just being like, God damn, like that shit is like it's rattling your soul, you know what I mean? And everything. And if you had told me that day that we'd be standing here 30-something years later talking about them, I'd have been like,
right.
But man, the things that Joe and Joey have done throughout the years, man, I'm still in awe of what they built up from seeing it from day one.
Right. Right. All right. So the last three things, and you can take this one however you want. Baby Tron is your son.
That's what they tell me.
Right. He had a less than desirable outcome at the gathering, and I'm just going to assume that I'm picturing from my own brain that it's equal parts hilarious and heartbreaking. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I would look at it personally. But that's he's not my son, right?
Sure.
Right. So if you have any feedback at all on kind of how things unfolded there. Or?
So I'll say this. I'll say that I probably didn't do a good enough job of preparing him for that.
Okay.
And when I say that, like, he needs no preparation, like, he's a fucking star. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But at that point in time, I think he'd only done 5 shows, maybe 6 shows.
Okay.
So he, the way the way the industry works now versus the way the industry works that like when I came up is kind of very different. So it's not uncommon to have somebody go in front of a big crowd who's never played small crowds or what, you know.
Right.
So I think that he and his crew, who I know all those guys. I've known a bunch of them since they were little kids,
right? Yeah.
You know. I think that what happened was they weren't used to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't that they came out and everybody was like, boo. It was like they came out, were performing, saw the wild shit, and when shit started to hit, you know, the stage, they were like, yeah, fuck this, we're out.
Right.
You know, and I guess, like, listen, my second gathering, I got hit in the face with a juice box.
Right.
Blueberry, I remember to this day. But I also knew that going in.
No, agreed.
So, you know, my son, I'll say this, he is very fashion aware. He's dresses very, you know. And so when you go on stage, you got $500 shoes, $1,000 pair of jeans, and people start throwing shit. You're like, I got dressed up for this,
right?
You know, so you're like, nah, you know. So at the same time, I think that we all, as performers, can build off of like adversity, right? Like every show's not the shit. You know, for every dope show that I've done shows that were the fucking worst.
Right.
You know, so I mean, I look at it like this. Yeah, it was. I'll say it was disappointing, just in the sense of like, I mean, obviously, like you don't want to see your kids be like, fuck this is bullshit. Which, not his words, but you know what I mean, like, and everything. At the same time, I don't think that right now he's thinking about that.
No. And then, again,
he's got. I'll tell you this, and I don't, you know, whatever him and I talk, industry stuff, I'm always very cognizant of like, that's gonna be dope, but I can't tell it, right? You know, so like when he did the track with M, I knew way before that came out that it was coming out,
right?
And I kept telling people, I was like, yeah, man, he's got some shit. Like I can't tell you what, but when it comes out, it's gonna be dope,
right?
And then he ended up being in Eminem's video, but he wasn't on the song. This was the Lyrical Lemonade song, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, that's what you're talking about." Like, that's not what I was talking about. You know, so it's like it just amazes me. Kind of very similarly to looking at Joe and Joey, and I didn't know them before I saw them do the first ICP show, but I've known my son since day one, and then to see like what he's been able to do. And I think a lot of misconception with him is that people think I got him into the industry, and I did not. Like, that everything that he's done has been his work. He stays in the studio. His manager Lando, holds it down and everything like that. So, I have nothing but respect for what he's doing.
Yeah. Again, look, he sells out. He sold out St. Andrews, the Bloody Sunday night show, because I saw you at both places. I don't know if you remember that.
Yep.
Man, just trust me, y'all. Yes. I again, David Tron getting the reception at the gathering he got isn't making or breaking his career at all. And this is his dad. I thought I'd take who's
allegedly
OG Juggalo as fuck. I want to, I just kind of wanted a little bit of feedback on that because maybe people don't know. So again, thank you for sharing some thoughts on that. So last, I kind of end with generic questions at the end here.
Sure.
With and you can take this question however you'd like. What is next for you?
I am ISO. I am in search of videographer.
Videographers. If you're a videographer.
Yeah, hit me up. I have a song that is very much like it's not going to be a basic performance, just stand in front of the camera. So there's kind of a story to it. I'm looking for somebody who can kind of execute that story with actors, because I don't necessarily want to be the actor in it. I'm hoping to drop 3 videos before summer. That's next. Trying to get on some more shows. Trying to, I have the luxury of being able to go, hey, I can go wherever and perform. If somebody puts me on stage somewhere, I can be there.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's, trying to do that. Trying to maybe do some, you know, festival dates. Like, I think what will be super dope, and if anybody's listening, is that my band does the Gathering this year, which we've done the Gathering numerous times.
Rob, Bruce?
Yeah. But what I would like to do is I would like to perform solo one day,
Okay.
and with the band another day.
Okay.
Now, little known fact, and anybody out there can research this, and if I'm wrong, but I'm not. When Jimmy did the Gathering and I did the Gathering, only father and son that ever did that performed separately.
Yeah.
Ever. So kind of made a little bit of history.
And I announced y'all to the stage. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah.
do.
All right. So last thing is the plugs. So Instagram, whatever you got.
I just Google Sadistic Motown Rage. You'll find me. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
And if you're unfamiliar with MR Sadistic on a solo level,
We say Mister.
Yeah.
You know.
So at any rate, it's kind of Chuck D. It's kind of Awesome Dre. A little bit of that, in my opinion. And I think that yes, he did rap in a rap metal band. I do still think that his voice kind of fits the guitar motif, for lack of a better thing. It's how he's best suited, and that's why I think of the Chuck D, Anthrax, Bring the Noise shit. Advanced or updated. But again, OG Juggalo as fuck. Literally was on Psychopathic Records. Mr. Sadistic, the Motown Rage. Thanks everybody for checking this out. You got something to add? Fire away.
I was gonna say I've heard the Chuck D thing. I was a huge Chuck D fan when I was young. Never heard the Awesome Dre thing. That's with the homie. You know what I'm saying? Dre was on. I'll tell the story real quick. When we were signed to Psychopathic, somebody may have heard this story before or not, but initially they had asked us to do a song that was going to have everybody on the label at the time on it for our record. And then I think that we were kind of left to our own devices to record.
Okay.
And then I wrote the music for Slaughterhouse, and when we were ready to record it, everybody on the label, like somebody was on a tour or somebody, like we weren't able to facilitate that. And so Awesome Dre and Doe Doubler, aka Big Hoodoo, ended up coming to the studio and being on that record. Now, that is my favorite Motown Rage song because I was young and I first got my driver's license. One of the first cassettes I ever had in my first car was Awesome Dre. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So to kind of, know who he was and look at him like, that's the dude, you know what I'm saying? And then years later, sitting there watching him pen a dope fucking verse for our album, you know what I mean? It was like, it's like, yeah, this is wild, you know what I mean? So he's performed that song with us. It's been years. So Dre, if you're out there, we should make that happen.
Shout out to Dre. I haven't talked to him forever.
Yeah,
so,
same with Doe. Voodoo, same thing. Where it's just like that was one of those moments where it was like, I look at the track, and I can't imagine that track being anything other than what it is now.
Yeah.
Now, again, it would have been dope to have everybody on the label, especially back then, because it was still Twisted and Blaze and Boondocks, and like it was still the old school, but it is what it is.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks again for your time.
Awesome.
Thanks to my camera person, who will remain nameless, I guess. But again, Mr. Sadistic, Motown Rage. Thanks everybody for checking these out.
They gonna love us for life.
Whoop.
Yeah, I don't go there.
Right.
I don't fuck with them anymore. I used to like them, but I don't fuck with them.